Hey guys, and welcome back to DB Talks. And what a way to come back! I mean, this was an absolute demolition job at the Spotify Camp Nou, and it ended up being a result where Barcelona won 7-2 against Newcastle United. And on aggregate, this actually was ended up being a scoreline of 8-3, which is honestly crazy. And I haven't seen such a big scoreline since I don't know how long, especially in the Champions League knockouts, where I mean, winning 7-2 is nothing you see every day. So honestly, yeah, really, really amazing game to watch. And I mean, I know a couple of Barca fans were actually at the stadium. I just can't imagine how it felt to actually be there in person. But again, even watching from home, I mean, it felt pretty crazy to just watch our players do so well in the Champions League knockout game. And obviously, the first leg, it ended up being 1-1, a shaky kind of draw where we even admitted like it was kind of, we escaped with the draw with the last minute Yamal pen. But again, this game, I mean, winning 7-2, it just shows the I guess dominance we have, especially at home. I mean, the win rate at the Camp Nou continues. We are still at 100% win rate at the Camp Nou, so I guess it's really making a difference for us in these big games. And again, we'll discuss like the players that really perform for us, but again, a lot of key players stepped up for us, and I guess it paid off having them as part of our squad. But let's get into the game. I mean, going into it, obviously the 1-1 away fixture was kind of, it was an okay result. I mean, a lot of fans were okay with the draw, but again, we didn't really like perform well in that specific game. But again, the Camp Nou crowd demanded a lot of dominance, and we even saw the atmosphere today. I mean, a lot of fans were, backing the team. There was a lot of chants going on, and it just felt like the overall atmosphere was much much better in the Camp Nou. And again, like as we mentioned a couple of videos ago, like the Camp Nou capacity is now increased to 60,000 people. So again, it brings more fans to support the team, and you can just see how that like played into effect into the team. And again, the first leg showed the press that Newcastle have, and players like Elanga could have actually done even better in that first leg. But again, even this game, he ended up causing us problems. And I think for what Flick learned from that game specifically was that Barca needed, a lot more progression, and they need to load their flanks. And again, I feel like we weren't clinical enough in the first leg, and I think today we were much much better. But I mean, let's go into the actual game. I mean, looking at the lineups, Bridge, if you want to cover that.
Yeah, so just talking about the game so it was like we also talked about the kind of the hype going to this game and like what it meant in the last video. How the second leg was definitely very important because again it's a knockout game. It's a do or die situation where Barca if they don't win this game then they're going to get knocked out. So it was a pretty big game. It was a must-win game. I think a lot of people wanted the players to really step up and show a very strong performance, especially at home. And you look at the lineup and the lineup that Flick decided to go with because I think, with this Barca need to display like, their best squad to have like, the best chance of winning and to play well. So for the keeper, it was Eric García. The back line, so it was Cancelo left back. It was the center backs were João Martin and Kubarsi. And the right back was actually Eric Garcia, who returned to the lineup. And the midfield was Pedri and Bernal. And the front four was it was Raphinha, it was Lamine on the right wing, and then it was Fermín Lopez starting and Lewandowski starting. So I think with this lineup, I think Flick definitely. I think it was the right choice from Flick for starting players like Eric Garcia, Fermín Lopez, and Lewandowski in this game. Even with almost scoring a goal in the last game, I feel like Fermín in this type of game would be very good because we know the type of player he is and how he brings a lot to the press of the team and the overall like, energy, and how he's also a pretty big attacking threat where his shooting and even sometimes his playmaking and passing can be dangerous. So I definitely think that he was like the right choice, and I think Lewandowski, will definitely talk about him more later, but I think he was definitely the right choice because his experience and his box presence. He's definitely, I feel like he's the best striker for Barca right now, over France. So I think him starting was definitely a very good choice from. And I think everything else, like I think like other players are kind of standard because we know like the type of situation Barca is in with the injuries where De Jong's out, Balde's out, Koundé's out, and I think like everything that Flick got, I think it was a very good lineup going to the game. And I think looking at Newcastle's lineup, where they actually started Anthony Gordon, who he didn't start last game, he got subbed on, but this game actually started. And then you talk about Elanga as well, who also played, who we saw in the first leg was causing problems in this game as well. He's also talk about him also. He also caused some problems. And I think another important thing I kind of mention is Newcastle's midfield, because I think that's one of Newcastle's more stronger players. That's where they come. That's where they are. Such as Joe Linton, Tonali, who I think they would have caused troubles with Barca's midfield in terms of the physicality and kind of how they like to foul and like are very physical with the pushing and all. And we know that the players midfielders of Barca aren't really that like physically strong, so they're more technical. And I think like in terms of that, I think Barca kind of handled that physicality well, using technical ability and just passing and just playing well. We'll talk about that as well. So yeah, I think overall it's a good lineup.
And I think the major surprise inclusion for this game was Eric Garcia slotting in at right back because, again, he's been injured and he's been dealing with these problems for a couple weeks now, and I didn't expect him to be like just placing the back and right back into the lineup right away. And again, it kind of caused him issues specifically in this game because he was actually substituted early in the game, which we will get into. But other than that, I mean, the lineup was really strong. A lot of our key players were present, and even in the last video, we mentioned players like Yamal, Pedri, and Raphinha. We're gonna have to step up and I guess take charge of this game. And I mean, heading into the first half, actually, before that, I mean, looking at the Newcastle lineup again, they played without a clear striker. They played with Borden as striker because I guess Eddie Howe did know that he can expose Barca's high line, with pace and power. And again, someone like a Langa, someone like a Harvey Barnes, they can cause us problems on the counter attack and in transition. And even when we started this game, I mean, it was a really hectic start, and I feel like the first 5 minutes actually, it felt like Newcastle was actually like dominating the ball. They seemed to win the ball back a lot more than Barca, and it felt like they were kind of controlling the first few minutes. But again, the first goal ended up being for Barca, and it was actually pretty early in the game, in the 6th minute, where we saw Raphinha score a goal. And I want to talk about how this goal worked out because it's actually really interesting because. For this goal, we saw Yamal actually invert more into the midfield, almost as an attacking midfielder. And I think something that he learned, and even maybe Flick saw in the reverse fixture at St James Park, I think he saw that Yamal was kind of struggling to go 1v1 against Lewis Hall. I think Lewis Hall was doing really well against Yamal in that first leg, and I think Yamal realized that as well, and he decided to go into the more central areas in this game to, I guess, cause more chaos. And even in the first goal, he was very central. The ball was played into him, and he had a really, really good turn that actually dropped Malik Tia. And I think that turn actually just like led to a big chance. And thankfully, Yamal played a really, really good ball over to Rafinha. Rafinha played it out wide to Fermín, back to Rafinha. And that basically like took out Tonali, who was kind of defending both players. And at that point, Rafinha was kind of like through on goal, and he had the chance to shoot, and thankfully a really, really good tidy finish into the bottom corner. And at that point, Barca were already 1-0 up. And yeah, that was a really, really good start. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that opening goal and the whole, I guess, start of the game?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, it was. I feel like in the first few minutes, it wasn't like a one-sided thing. I think both teams were trying to go back and forth, but I think with the first goal that Raphinha scored, I think that brought a lot of momentum because we know how Barca is at home, the fans and the energy they bring, and so for Raphinha to score the opening goal, I think it definitely gave so much like hope, so much energy, and so much excitement to the fans that once you score that, you can hear loud roars, and you just see how excited the fans are and how hyped the team is. And it was a very good goal from Raphinha, and I think it was a goal that he definitely needed to because coming off a hat trick, I think he felt super good and super confident in himself, and I think scoring that definitely just improves that. And again, it was a great goal from him. So I think I like the way that the goal was played, and I think having a strong start like that is definitely a great way to help win these types of games.
And even like after that, I think I don't know about you, but I expected Barca to keep scoring more goals, but that was cut short in the 15th minute, where we saw the same type of goal where we concede all season, where they play a long ball over a high line and they just kind of cross it in, and someone's open at the back post, and they end up scoring. And this time it was Olanga who ended up taking his chance, and again causing us problems with the pace that he has. And at 1-1, I just felt like it was a bit. hectic. I feel like we should have scored another goal, but I mean, thankfully, right away, right after that goal, like after 3 minutes, we saw Bernal get his goal, and again, this was off a free kick and a set piece where, again, a really, really good delivery from Raphinha. I think he's that part of his game. The whole set piece thing is such a good part of his game, and it really like helps us in these types of games. And again, yeah, really good delivery into the box. And something I really liked about this goal is that Gerard Martin decided to like cut it back with a header. He could have easily shot it, and we've seen so many players in Barca like try to hit the ball, and it kind of just goes over the net or just off target. And I think yeah, Gerard Martin made a really really smart decision to kind of lay it off to Bernal, who was kind of open in the box. And yeah, at that point it was just kind of like a tap in for Bernal. And thankfully, yeah, we got back our lead. And at 2-1, I mean, it was much much better start for the game for Barca.
Yeah, so I talking about like the goal that Barca conceded and then the goal that Barca scored after the Bernal goal. I think the goal that Barca conceded was pretty again, it was a bad defensive error. I feel like you said, Barca always concede types of goals, and I feel like when I saw that goal scored, when I saw Newcastle score the goal, I was like, it's gonna be a pretty long game because I thought that it would be a very big back and forth between both teams of just scoring goals. And I feel like I feel like in that moment, I feel like Barca just couldn't let that happen. I feel like it was just a very bad mistake, and I think giving a goal like that too easily gives Newcastle the momentum on their side, which we don't know what can happen if that happens and just how they're playing. So I think it was very scary, but then for Barca to get the goal after that, I think it was very nice. And I think Bernal, I think, has been, we talked about him so much recently because he's been starting and he's made a huge impact. And definitely get the goal, even though it was like kind of like a tapping goal, still was a very very well needed goal for Barca. And I think that again brought the momentum more on Barca's side. But then after we saw that Barca conceded after that again, and I think seeing that back and forth, I think also summarized that the first half was just how both teams were going very back and forth, and I felt like no team was really like controlling the game or dominating the game in the first half. I felt like both teams kind of had their own chances and like their own goals scored.
And yeah, just as you mentioned, like again, we held that lead for around 10 minutes, and we again I ended up conceding another similar type of goal where, again, actually this goal we can kind of point the blame slightly to Yamal because he was in his own like kind of area near his box and he decided to do like a cheeky kind of back pass, and that ended up like costing us where Newcastle ended up winning the ball back off that, and then I think it was Lewis Hall who won the ball back and he played it over to Harvey Barnes, and at this point again, you should expect your defense to, kind of, I guess, fix up the error. But it was Araujo who got subbed on at that point because Eric Garcia went down. And again, Araujo does really poor 1v1 and kind of gets, I guess, dribbled past a bit. And then the ball goes through his legs. And again, it's kind of a square ball into the box. And guess who's there? It's Alenga again. He ends up scoring a brace against us. And again, it was just a poor defensive moment and a poor goal that we could have really prevented, especially with the Yamal pass. The whole Araujo could have blocked that. And again, just a similar type of goal we've conceded all season, where it's like a square ball into the box. And again, I just feel like 2-2 was really hectic the start of the game. And again, I think right after they scored that goal, I actually felt like Newcastle were actually getting a bit of momentum in the game. I feel like after they scored that goal, they were kind of controlling the ball a bit more, which was a bit worrying. But thankfully, we'll get into the thing that happened the really like later minutes in the second half. But right after that, I mean, there was a lot of chaos going on, and again, right at the end of the half, we saw the Lamine Yamal pen, where again it was a well worked move, and this time, actually before that, I want to talk about the whole Elanga pen situation, and a lot of fans were talking about how Cancelo should have conceded a pen because he did kind of pull down Elanga like near the box, and honestly, I feel like that could have been given a pen because. Um, he did seem to like grab onto him and try to like pull him down. So not sure like why it didn't go to VAR or anything, and I don't know why it didn't get fully checked. But that could have easily been a moment where Newcastle take the lead, and at 3-2 that would have been a really dangerous situation. But again, a similar type of kind of moment happened for Barca, like at the 47th minute, um, sorry, the 7th minute of extra time, where again the ball is played into Fermín and he kind of puts a cross into the box, and Raphinha's trying to like run into the box trying to get the goal. However, Trippier kind of pulls back to him his arm, and again it's a really kind of smart move from Raphinha because he kind of lets his arm go out and he lets Trippier kind of pull onto it. And again, I feel like that was actually a really good movement from him at least. And thankfully, yeah, it was given to a VAR check and it was given as a Barca pen. And again, yeah, it was a really important moment in the game right before the half ended. And at this point, I mean, the penalty was awarded, and I expected Raphinha to step up and score. However, I mean, he decided to give the pen to Yamal, and I'm not sure why this kind of whole thing happens. I'm not sure if Raphinha kind of, I guess, discusses with Yamal whether who takes the pen in each game or something like that. Because even last game, he ended up giving it to Yamal, so I'm not sure what's happening in that situation. Maybe it's Yamal who's taking in the Champions League, and maybe Raphinha takes the penalties in the La Liga competition, but I'm not sure what's happening with that. But again, yeah, Yamal steps up, and again, he's kind of really calm. He ends up stepping up, and actually Ramsey goes the right way, but I think it's a good penalty. I think Yamal puts enough power on it to, get past Ramsey, and at that point we're 3-2 up. And actually, Yamal ended up like going and celebrating like with kind of Neymar celebration. And even before the game, we saw him post like a Neymar reel. He was talking about how he's gonna perform like Neymar, and I feel like it was a good moment for him to get that goal and kind of have that dancing moment, just showing off, what he is as a player. He's an entertainer, and yeah. What are your overall thoughts on that whole situation?
Yeah, so just first talking about the Eric sub for Araujo, I think with Eric, I think he relapsed his I forget what his hamstring, or I forget what his exact like injury was, but he relapsed and he had that injury, so yeah, he got subbed off. I think you could see like Eric was a bit emotional when he was getting subbed off, and Araujo came on, and I think we kind of noticed in the first leg when Araujo was playing as right back, we saw that the attacking dynamic on the right side wasn't as clean as it usually is with a player like, let's say, Kunde or Eric or even Cancelo on the right. So I was very interested to see how the dynamic would work now, because I felt like Barca's attack was going super strong already in the game, scoring 2 goals. So yeah, I was wondering how if it would change anything, if Araujo's presence on the right back would change much, and yeah, I mean, having Rahul there, I mean, talking about the second goal Barca conceded, I think you can definitely, like, definitely pin the blame on Lamine for that whole thing, but I do think that the defending was sloppy, and I think even after Lamine's mistake, I think the goal could have been easily prevented. I feel like Araujo didn't do good enough to really defend the cross that I believe Lewis Hall gave, right? And yeah, I just went
Barnes,
too easy. Oh, Barnes, yeah, yeah. The cross that Barnes gave. I think Raul let it go too easily past him, and I think he could have done better. I think the defense just wasn't really awake, and yeah, Alanga got a goal from that. And I think at the moment, definitely, it felt very like stressful a little bit, because every time Barca were scoring, Newcastle were also scoring after, and I felt like it was very hard for Barca to really get a good lead for a long time. So when you talk about later at the like near the end of the half, when Barca got the pen and Lamine takes and he scores, I think when the half ended there, I think being up 1-0, not 1-0, going up 1 goal, making it 3-2 at home and having a whole half left, I think gave Barca more confidence, just because they were up at home, and I think having a whole half to reset, I think was definitely helpful. And also talking about like the Neymar thing, I think that was also a very good moment for Lamine and even Neymar himself. I saw Neymar commented on Lamine's Instagram post after the game, and it's definitely a great moment for Lamine. I mean, he's definitely one of the more animated players in terms of like the personality and like the celebrations and how he expresses himself. So I think it's very nice to see him, have those moments. I think it's a very cool thing to see. So yeah, he's definitely a very special player. So yeah, and yeah, I think overall the first half, I'd say it was kind of shaky. I wouldn't say it wasn't as clean or smooth as people probably wanted it to be, and conceding 2 goals, but also scoring 3 goals. It definitely had a lot going to it. I felt like it was a very back and forth type game, a game that Barca's not really used to, where they're not really used to the other team going forward so many times, and Barca aren't that used to games where they're not really controlling the game or dominating. And I think look at like the midfield. I feel like I think midfield didn't really have that control, and I don't really blame them too much. I feel like it was a difficult game to really get that in the first half. I think even with that, I think Pedro and Bernal were still pretty solid in the midfield, and I think yeah, I think with that, I think overall, I think the team was good, but obviously it could have been better. But yeah, it was a very tense first half, I'd say.
Oh yeah, there was also that one Tiam moment where he kind of passed the ball awkwardly, and Rafinha ended up winning it back, and he kind of played Lewandowski, and it ended up not being a goal because it was blocked. I do think we should have been better with that chance, and I think even Lewandowski knows himself he should have scored from that. But What were your thoughts on the whole Cancelo Elanga thing? Do you think it should have been a pen for them?
You know what? I didn't really look back at the that replay after the game, but I think when I saw it at the moment, I thought like it could have been either way. Honestly, I feel like with that stuff, like it's very like a matter of perspective. I feel like the pen that Barca got, I think that was for sure a pen. But when I saw it multiple times because it went to VAR, but with the the Elanga stuff, it didn't go to VAR, so didn't really get to see it again. But things like that can go either way. I feel like it not being a pen, I think is kind of fair. But if it were to be given a pen, then it was probably fair if that were the choice. But it didn't happen, so I guess nothing much could happen with that.
Yeah, I think we were pretty like happy to go into that second half with the lead of one goal. But even looking at the stats, I mean, the first half, I think Barca weren't completely dominating possession, but we did have 56%. And even with our XG and stuff, it was favoring us. But again, it was like even Newcastle had a couple of chances where they could have equalized and maybe even taken the lead. So again, it was very hectic. I think it was again both sides were going at each other and. I think Flick realized that in the at the halftime. I think he did talk to the team, try to bring more control into the game, and thankfully we saw that in the second half. And if we go into the second half, I think we start off really much better in the second half. I think we start off with much more pressing, with much more like just passing and controlling the ball, and we saw Fermín actually got a big early goal, and this goal was actually a well worked goal and actually really good from Gerard Martin, who kind of plays the ball line breaking through a couple Newcastle players, and he finds Raphinha, and Raphinha does really well to play the first time pass to Fermín Lopez, who is actually onside because again Malik Tiok keeps him onside. And again, a really well worked run and well worked move from the whole team. And thankfully, for me, kind of gets into the one on one against Ramsdale and a really calm finish into the bottom corner. And at that point, being 4-2 up, I think that was a really big moment because again, we in this game we never really had the 2 goal lead. It felt like again, consistently like Newcastle was scoring an equalizer against us, and I think getting that second goal, the 2 goal lead was really important in this game.
Yeah, like you mentioned with the start, like the second half, I think definitely it was much better than the first half, like the way Barca were going into the game and kind of how things turned out. And I think, when Firmino got the goal, it felt very nice because of the 2 goal deficit and there's still a lot of time left, obviously, but I think in that goal, and I think that just hyped up the crowd so much more. I think Barca had so much momentum at that point where going up 2 goals. It was very difficult for Newcastle to really kind of recover from that. And I think, they definitely felt the pressure. You see a lot of errors coming from their sides and their players, and I think, because Newcastle aren't a team that are too experienced in the UCL, because so I think with that, when not being too experienced, I feel like they kind of definitely like succumb to the pressure more, and I think you can definitely notice that and then throughout the entire game, I think you can also just notice that the mistakes that they make and how they didn't really look that confident in like their play. I think after that with that Firmino goal, I think it was a very good goal to, I want to say, shield the game. I felt like there was still a lot of time for things to happen, but I think that was a huge goal for Barca. I think if anything, I felt Barca was going to get more goals after that because they tackled super strong, scoring already 4 goals. And I feel like something that people you have to just notice is the atmosphere and just how intense the fans were with like the support that they were giving, and you can just tell that like they're ready to make it a very big historic night. So definitely credit to the fans because I feel like they were a big part of the reason why Barca were able to get this insane win. So I think with that goal and the start of the second half, I think it was much better than what happened in the first half.
Yeah, I just feel like even a big moment in the game in the second half, right after Firmino goal, was the like Firmino and Tonali moment where they kind of Tonali tries to get back and he gives away a corner to Firmino, but they kind of end up clashing. At that point, like Tonali needs treatment and he isn't able to continue in the game, so they had to make a substitution where Willock came on for Tonali, and right off the corner that was actually one from that whole play. We ended up scoring and getting the fifth goal, where again a really good delivery, another set piece assist from Raphinha, and he plays a lovely ball into the box. And thankfully, we've mentioned this so many times where we need an aerial threat, a box threat like Lewandowski, who's just so good, physically. And again, he ends up scoring a really good header goal from the corner. And at this point, I mean, 5-2, the game is pretty much over. And at this point, you expect Barca to just keeps dominating the game and keep scoring more goals. But again, you can maybe blame Livermore, who was subbed down in the second half. He kind of isn't able to fully mark Lewandowski. But again, I just feel like a really good moment to make it 5-2 from Lewandowski and overall 6-3 on aggregate.
Yeah, I was talking about just the Lewandowski goal because I mentioned before like the goal threat that Lewandowski brings, and just Barca get corners pretty frequently, I'd say, in a game. So I think definitely having a player who can get those goals off the corner and just be a big box threat and an aerial threat is huge. And I think Lewandowski is one of the few players on the Barca squad that really offers that. So yeah, I kind of mentioned during the lines that I think Lewandowski was the right choice to bring into the game as a striker, and that goal definitely proved it. I think the whole Livermore thing where people were saying that it should have been Livermore marking Lewandowski, should have been someone else, but I still think the it was very good for Lewandowski to get the goal, and his positioning is very good, and the Raphinha delivery was very good as well. So I think that goal, honestly, I feel like that was a goal that really killed the game. I think a 3-goal deficit where Barca are looking to not stop scoring, and the momentum is just so much on Barca's side. I think that definitely just I feel like it just killed the game for Newcastle. I feel like if anything, it made them more nervous, more pressure. I felt like it was going to be very hard for them to really recover and even score one more goal. I felt like Barca were the ones that really just gained more the goal. And I feel like just look at it, you just think like, okay, I think Barca will score another goal before Newcastle can get a third goal. I just felt like with that, I think that was a huge game, a huge momentum, and I think definitely with that lead, I think Barca just looked so much more confident, and I think that play was nice. I think everyone was like very energetic, and yeah, I think that goal was definitely, in my opinion, I think that was the goal that definitely just won Barca the game, and I think it was very nice from Lewandowski.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I think that goal really killed the game off. And after that moment, I mean, I think Barca just kept dominating, and we ended up seeing Lewandowski score another goal and get a brace. And again, this was a really well worked goal again. And actually, it was a mistake of the whole Newcastle defense. I think the press from Barca was really good. And it ends up being Willock who was subbed on, and he ends up like doing a really poor pass into the kind of middle of the area. And again, um, Lewandowski kind of just found open, and he gets an open shot, and he's able to get a good goal from that moment. And again, a really really good goal for Barca. And at that point, I mean, 6-2 um, is pretty much game over. And at this point, you expect Barca to just make subs, kind of just game management in the game, and I guess finish off the game and head into the quarters. But I mean, the goal didn't end there. We saw another goal for Barca. Actually, before that, I mean, there was a couple of subs that were made. Obviously, at 6-2, you expect Flick to make some subs. We saw João Cancelo come off for Javi Spar. We saw Lewandowski come off for Ferran Torres, and we saw Fermín Lopez come off for Dani Olmo. And again, yeah, I mean, we saw in the 70th minute, we saw Raphinha get his second goal and make it 7-2, and this was actually just a cold, crazy moment. And again, at this point, you can tell that Newcastle were kind of deflated. They were tired, and they kind of accepted that they were going to lose this game. And oh, sorry, this was actually the moment where he kind of passed it over to Raphinha. I think I mixed up the goals, but again, yeah, this was the moment where they kind of played the ball into the middle of the area, and Raphinha kind of with really good press, he ends up intercepting it, and then like calmly slots it past Ramsey. And at this point, yeah, again 7-2, and a really really good I guess finishing of the game from Barca. And again, to think that we were 3-2 up in the in the first half, and then ended up making it 7-2 in the second half is just crazy to think about. And just a really really good performance in the second half. And yeah, do you want to talk about those two goals really quick?
Yeah, so just talking about those goals, like you mentioned, so the Lewandowski goal that Lamine assisted. I think it was a very nice assist from Lamine Yamal, and you can obviously tell there was like some errors from Newcastle and like Malik Diao, and his mistake from not really like getting the ball before Lewandowski. But either way, Lewandowski got the ball, and it was a very clean, nice finish on the bottom, left corner. I think it was a very good finish from Lewandowski, very calm goal. And I think again that at the point Newcastle were just dead. They knew they're losing the time, they're getting knocked out. So I felt like um in the like later like and from that moment on and towards the end of the game, I feel like Newcastle really didn't do much and really didn't put any effort because I think they knew that they were getting eliminated and they didn't really try to get a goal. And also the Raphinha goal, I think, was also very nice. It came off also another Newcastle mistake, and it was just a pretty easy goal for the Raphinha. I think it was a very nice goal for Raphinha to get. He had 4 GA, I believe, this game, so definitely a huge performance for Raphinha on, I'll say, not only just the goal contribution sheet, but also just overall how he played. I think he definitely had a very good game. And yeah, I think um, definitely Newcastle really just, you could tell the later moments they kind of gave up. They were super nervous still. They're giving up so many mistakes. And I think Barca just outplayed Newcastle in the second half. I think that second half, whatever Hansi Flick said during halftime, definitely got into the Barca players' minds and definitely made them play much better. And talking about like, the subs, because like you mentioned, Barca had to make subs because obviously Barca have a huge lead and it's better to kind of rest players or rotate. But I was surprised that Flick didn't really give rest to certain players like Pedri, who I think could have used the rest. But I can understand why he wants to keep him on as well. But yeah, it's pretty interesting to see that. And I think the subs overall, they didn't have like a huge impact on the game because they didn't really need to. I think at that point Barca just won the game, and I think they didn't have to really over pressure the way they played or really go super intense when the lead's that high. And also, this is another very important part of the game was when we saw Joan Garcia kind of go down with a small like injury, and we saw him get subbed off for Szczesny in like the later moments of the game at like around the 80th minute, I believe. And I mean that was definitely a scary moment because we know how important Joan Garcia is for this team. We even saw in the first half where Newcastle had this very good chance, even though it was offside. They had a very good chance, and Joan Garcia made this very insane save in the first half that just super impressive. I feel like Joan Garcia always makes these types of saves, and it's very cool to see. But to have him, go injured, it's definitely a very scary moment because he's definitely one of the more important Barca players for the squad. In terms of, we see how he's the main difference for games where Barca can get a clean sheet, or he can even like be the reason why Barca win games because he's able to save in very important shots. So yeah, seeing him going down, seeing Strategy get subbed on, I think it was a very scary moment for everyone because we just know its importance. And I think when Strategy came on, I think he didn't really have to do much, but I think he was okay for what he had to do, honestly. But yeah, it was, that was definitely one of the more important moments as well. But yeah, I think the way Barca ended off the game, and I would say the second half definitely was a huge change from what Barca delivered in both the first leg and the first half of this game. And I think it was definitely a huge improvement, and it was definitely what the fans wanted to see. It's what Flick wanted to see. It's what the players wanted to see. So I think overall it was a very, very good end result. And on to the quarterfinals, where we saw Atleti are advancing on Barca's their Barca's next opponent. I think that'll definitely be a game to look forward to. And Barca will play Atleti like 3 times in 10 days. So we'll talk about when we get to that point of the season. We'll talk about it, of course. And yeah, I think overall that was a very nice game from Barca.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I think the whole Jean Garcia going down moment, I think that was a big moment in the game. And there's been reports now that are saying that he's only out for 2 to 3 weeks, which is not the worst thing, to be honest. And someone like a Chesney can step in, and that's why he's there. So yeah, hopefully we are still able to win a couple more games with Chesney and Nance, and hopefully the Jean Garcia can come back as soon as possible. But overall, I just feel like the whole game in general, I think this was such a good result for Barca, and it's been so long since we've like really performed in a Champions League knockout and like really done well and dominated like this. And especially against a Premier League team where we've seen so many Premier League fans talk about how Barca can't hack it in the Prem or they can't, play these physical oppositions. And I mean, we just kind of proved them wrong in this game. And thankfully, yeah, a really good game from Barca. And I mean, just looking overall, I mean, player performances. I think obviously all of our matches are going to go to Raphinha. I think honestly, he was everywhere this game, even defensively, like not just offensively. Yes, he got four goal involvements. He got 2 goals and 2 assists. But again, even without that, he was just pressing everywhere. At times, he was filling it and at left back, covering for Cancelo. At times, he was at right back. And I just feel like he's such a passionate player that he can, press without forever, and he doesn't get tired. And it's just so important to have a player like him on our team. Yeah, and I just feel like again we've seen why even last season he was our Mr. UCL. He was like our most important player in the UCL, and I feel like again he showcased why and the difference that he can make in these types of games. And thankfully, yeah, he came off a really good performance with the hat trick in the last game, and he continues his really good form in this game as well. And other than that, I mean, I put Yamal as well up there. I think he was pretty really good. I think yeah, the fact that he was able to go in these central areas, I think that kind of helped him in this game. And like the assist that he had, all the different moments, and even the penalty, I think that really helped his game. I think Fermin was also really good. I mean, apart from the goal, I don't think he was anything too special. I think again, it was a really important goal moment for him to score in that moment. And even Lewandowski, I think before those goals, he was also like looking a bit lackluster, but thankfully he stepped up and ended up getting two important goals to, I guess, put us in the lead and really get those important goals. Other than that, I mean, I think Gerard Martin was really good. I think even like his passing play, and just recently, I think he's like really picked up form in general. I think Bernal was really good. Like we've seen so many times, his attacking positioning as a box crasher is really important, and he ends up scoring as well today. Pedri, I think this is one of his less I guess dominant games. I think he wasn't as good as he usually is, and I think again I don't know why he wasn't subbed off early. I think maybe it's fatigue, maybe he needs a bit of rest. But again, I feel like Pedri, yes, he was good. I think he wasn't bad at all. But again, the level we know Pedri to be, I think it wasn't as good as it can be. And other than that, I mean, the subs, I think Araujo was pretty decent when he came on. He had a couple of moments where he was pushing forward and, trying to, I guess, push people off the ball and stuff like that. So thankfully, nothing stupid or like a silly decision from Araujo in this game. And thankfully, he didn't cost us at all. And even Cancelo, I want to talk about as well because in this game he wasn't particularly anything special. I think at the start of the game he had a couple of moments where he was dribbling well, but other than that, I don't think he had a couple like really good attacking moments. And even defensively, I think he was a bit weak because for some of the Elanga goals, I think he could have done a bit better in marking him. And even like times where Elanga was kind of outpacing him, and even the whole penalty moment that could have been easily given. So again, not the best game from Cancelo, but I think our attack and midfield kind of helped with that. Other than that, I think Kubarsi was pretty decent. I think Jean Garcia, unfortunately, he got injured, but other than that, he was pretty good as well. But yeah, my man of the match was going to be Raphinha.
Yeah, for me, I have the same man of the match. I'm gonna give it Raphinha, and also won the UCL man of the match. And I think he definitely deserves to be the man of the match. I think he was definitely the player that made a huge impact. He scored the first goal of the game, and I think that goal definitely brought so much cheer for Barca and just the stadium overall. I think his impact as well. I think mentioned he got four goal contributions. I think that's also huge as well with the impact he had, and just overall what he brings to the team. I think is super special. Definitely, I think he got. I'll give him man of the match. And for other sound players, I mean, Lamine Yamal, I think had a pretty good game. I think his dribbling was insane, and just the stuff he did, and his pen was good too. He did miss that one chance where it was kind of like a tap in kind of, and he kind of skied it. But I think besides that, I think he was pretty solid overall and pretty good. I think Lewandowski also, he may have not done much outside of the two goals, but I think those two goals are still pretty important parts of the game and just very crucial um, things that definitely help contribute to the win for Barca. And I think him getting those two goals definitely a huge moment for him because we know Lewandowski in the UCL, he can definitely he's very experienced and he can definitely make that impact. And I think today he definitely did. So I would definitely give him like one of the better players. He also mentioned a shot that I was going to mention, Gerard Martin, who I think definitely is looking very solid under like this season overall. I think he's definitely very solid, and I think he's now he's had to adapt to the left center back role as a starter for Barca, and I think he's done it very well. And I think he deserves his credit and flowers. So I think he also had a good game, and uh, also I guess Bernal for his goal also was pretty huge. So I think he also deserves his credit there. And you mentioned with Pedri how he didn't have like a game where he's too noticeable. I think he had a very pretty quiet game, but I still think overall he was good in the game. And I think there's times where we may not notice the impact Pedri makes, but I felt like if Pedri did play his game, it wouldn't turn out the way it did. So I think Pedri's impact still is there, even if it's quiet or not as noticeable as people may see. I still think that his impact is huge. And I think John Garcia also made some pretty huge saves as well. And I think the two goals conceded, I think are kind of hard to blame on him because I think the defense kind of just didn't do good enough to really defend it. And yeah, besides that, I think the sub that came off, I feel like they didn't really have to do much anyways because I think the game was kind of over at that point. I think Fermín was solid, and I think his goal was pretty nice too. Um, but yeah, I think that's about for Bart. Yeah, I think those are the players that I'd say are the standouts for me.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the bigger picture, other than that, thankfully, yeah, we are in the quarters now, and we do know now that our quarterfinal opponents are going to be Atletico Madrid. So we do have the chance to, get the revenge that we had in the Copa del Rey where they knocked us out. And again, I want to see a big performance in the team because, you know, it was a shame to go out in the Copa del Rey like that. So yeah, I do want to see a big performance to get the revenge on them. And actually, a surprising thing is that we're gonna play the first leg at home and the second leg away because they ended up beating Spurs, who actually had a higher seed than us. So they actually now had the advantage of playing the second leg at home. So that is actually interesting, and I think hopefully we are gonna have to really take advantage at the Camp Nou because we don't have that, kind of, I guess, advantage to play the second leg at home. So yeah, hopefully we do much better to, I guess, play them. And actually, something really interesting about the whole fixture list is that we do play like in the span of 10 days, we play 4 games, and actually three of them are going to be against Atletico Madrid, which is really crazy. So yeah, two of them are against in the Champions League, obviously the two legs, and then one is in La Liga. So that's actually pretty crazy. And in between that, we have the Barcelona derby against Espanyol as well. So a lot of big games coming forward in really quick succession. So again, we do have to keep our fitness up and hopefully do much better in these big games. This is going to be an important part of the season where all these types of games start to matter a lot more. So yeah, hopefully the squad does do much better. And I guess, I mean, overall, I'm just really happy that we were able to win in such a dominant fashion in the UCL. I think hopefully that increases our chances against all the other teams in the remaining, I guess, parts of the UCL. But yeah, what are your overall thoughts? Anything else?
Yeah, I mean now it's just next game it's Real Vallecano at the Camp Nou for the Liga. I think that's going to be a pretty big game as well. Just extend that Liga lead and to try to get the that title as well. So I think right now that's like the main focus on the squad's mind. Though I think with this win, this huge win 7-2 is definitely a win to be celebrated from the fans and the players because it was a very good performance and a very dominating one, and it was a very big statement win for Barca in Europe to show the other clubs in the UCL like what they're capable of doing. And I mean we did see some other big results in the UCL, like a lot of like big scores. So I think for Barca to be part of like the winning team and that kind of thing is definitely very nice. So yeah, and then also about Atleti. Yeah, Barca will play Atleti quite a few times. Quite a few times due to the league and also the two ties in the UCL. So I think that will be pretty huge. And we saw kind of the last two games with Barca at Atleti and how those ones. So I think Barca need to really approach the game a bit differently. But to bring the momentum that Barca has had the recent form, I think if Barca can like play like that, I think Barca can definitely have a good result against them. But we'll see what happens when we get to that. And yeah, I mean. Yeah, besides that, I think the team right now is in a pretty good shape. I think the players have been performing very well, and I think the squad overall is kind of like, I think the players are definitely improving in the right time of the season. I think Yamal is on insane form. I think Raphinha is scoring and getting much better in this part of the season where last season he was kind of dipping in form, but now he's rising in form. And I think having like a prime Raphinha, and that's part of the season will be super crucial to winning games and titles. So I think he's definitely going to be huge. I think the midfield, I think you can't be more proud of both Pedri and Bernal and just the jobs they do. And the backline also has been improved. I think I forgot to mention a bit, but I noticed in the second half, even though Newcastle are kind of like dead, I think Barca's defense still did well in not letting another goal be conceded. I think Kubarsi and Martin have been doing good, and it's a very interesting duo of center backs, and it's not one that you expected. And I think if you asked someone last season like what they would predict the center back pairing to be for this season, they wouldn't say Gerard Martin because we saw the impact and how good Inigo Martinez was, and I think people wouldn't really imagine Gerard Martin playing as a last center back this season. But I think regardless, he's had a very solid he's been very solid at that position, and I think he's definitely has brought a very good impact to the team. I think he's definitely like someone who deserves appreciation. I feel like it's very nice to see him do that because I think at times he may go under the radar because his name isn't as big. And when he first came to the first team and played his minutes, I think he wasn't really taken as seriously from the fans. But I think now he's kind of earning the respect of fans. And I think the job he's doing, and I think Flick's very happy with him. So I think that's definitely very nice. I think Kubarsi also has been improving this season. I think at the first start, like at the first half of the season, I think he wasn't as good, and he wasn't as sharp, and he wasn't really playing to some of his strengths. But I think this season he's doing much better, especially defensively. I think we could see like a lot more improvement in his form kind of recently, and yeah, besides that, I think Firmino also has been pretty good as well. I believe I read a stat that he has the most GA out of any midfielder, um, which in no competitions, which is interesting. And I think for me, kind of gets a lot of G's in like certain games. I think there's certain games where he thrives in, and then those games he definitely tends to have the most impact and get more goals or assists. So I think, for me, he's one of the players that I think thrives in certain games and is just important in those games. So I think, you can see how the impact that he brings, and I think, if you compare, Almond for me, because I feel like, that 10 position is one of the more, like, I guess you could say, rotated positions, because I feel like it's kind of hard to predict who's going to start at that position in what type of game. But I think both players have been, they kind of do what they have to do, and I think, they're having a solid season. I think definitely need all the players to really, really like um, bring the best to the rest of the games, because now it's kind of the time where Barca have to win the games to win those titles. So they kind of have to fight hard and like work hard as well. So yeah, I do hope that John Garcia comes back soon, because I think it's definitely gonna be needed for the Atleti game, because Chesney is kind of aging and he's kind of rusty. He hasn't really played in a long time, and I saw on Instagram that he himself also said like he wants John Garcia back starting. So yeah, I think definitely we need to see how John Garcia's like his like fitness, like how that goes in the next few weeks. But hopefully he's back. I hope Eric Garcia is back, because I feel like I don't know what you, but for the ideal right back position, I feel like Eric would be the best one until Koundé returns. And Koundé will be back for like a month, like around a month or a few weeks, like 3 to 4 weeks. So I think we'll have to see what happens with that. And I feel like with Rajo, I mean, I think he's been solid, but I don't know if I would start him at right back. I feel like Eric is a bit better there, but yeah, we'll see kind of what Flick wants to do in the next few games.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think Eric Garcia would be our ideal right back at the moment with Kunde out. And I mean, overall, I think that wraps up our video for the Newcastle game. I mean, what an amazing game! What an amazing result for Barca, winning 7-2 is not what we expected. We predicted to win 3-1 in the last video, and the squad and the whole team kind of exceeded all our expectations. And again, an amazing home result. And hopefully, we continue this form in our next few fixtures and in the Champions League, especially. But yeah, do let us know your thoughts down in the comments down below. Do you think Barca are really picking up form in the UCL? Do you think we're going to be able to get our revenge against Atletico Madrid? And do you think someone like Raphinha can really step up and be our Champions League player this season? But yeah, let us know your thoughts down in the comments. And thank you for watching. And goodbye.
Goodbye.